Myself first again. My name is Lisa. I'm the Director of Enrollment Management. I've been at CH-CH going on my 19th year now. So 19 years, it's crazy being here for so long. I spent 10 on campus as a dorm parent and did some coaching back in the day. Now I do commute, but it's been just such a great community to work at for so long. So I'm going to ask Kelly up next to introduce herself.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kelly Walsh. I'm the Director of 9th and 10th grade programs. My role is described as the socio-academic oversight of the students in the 9th and 10th grade, and I also oversee the 9th and 10th grade teams of advisors and several of the department chairs from a curriculum committee perspective. I am in my 5th year at CH-CH. I also teach 9th grade history, advise 9th graders, and I live on campus, and it's great to see you all tonight.
Great, thank you, Kelly. I'm going to ask Caroline to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Caroline Fittimore. I am the admissions officer here at CH-CH, and I am an alum from the class of 2000.
Oh, she keeps freezing. Technical issues. We may have some of those. It's life these days.
Did you hear me?
Yep, it froze a little bit right when you were saying you were an alum of 2013. Gotcha.
Perfect.
Okay. Susie?
Hi everyone, I'm Susie Horn. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions and Director of Financial Aid. And actually, when Caroline was graduating from high school here, so I'm starting my 8th year. And it's great to see everyone.
Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna ask the parents to introduce themselves next with Christy. Oh, and don't forget to unmute yourself.
Oh yeah, right. I'm Christy Armstrong. My son is Nicholas. He's a junior at CH-CH. We're from Belmont. He went to the Acera School for middle school. So grades 5 through 8.
Great. Thank you, Christy. And can you just say what activities he's involved in?
Well,
or in a normal time.
Yeah, I was going to say right now he's remote, so he isn't involved in nothing. But in general, like his big things are science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So those were the kinds of things that he really liked and was involved in at CH-CH. He also really liked the clubs, specifically Smash Bros. And also rock climbing. He loved rock climbing.
Great. Thanks, Christy. All right. Up next is Jonathan.
I'm Jonathan Scott. My son, Lewis, is a senior this year, and he went to Cambridge Friends School for 1st through 8th grade before coming here. He's been very involved in lacrosse and soccer and wrestling. He's a pretty athletic guy, so COVID's been hard for him, but he really is glad to be back at school, and he's there now. He's studying photography last year and again this year. And it's really been a really great program for him.
Great, thank you, Jonathan. And up next is Justin.
Hi, my son Kian is a junior at CH-CH. He went to the Atrium School for middle school before that in Watertown. At CH-CH, back in the times when we had competitive sports and the world could do that, he did wrestling, soccer, and was probably most engaged in the ultimate frisbee team. And he also had an amazing time with the Makerspace and helping to do a lot of the work in there, and enjoyed that. And much like Christy's son, he was also a pretty active participant in Smash Club. This year, some of those activities aren't there, but he's still really happily part of the National Honor Society and some of the activities that they can do now, like there's a bicycling club and things like that.
Can you explain what Smash Club is?
Oh, sure. It's essentially a video game club where a bunch of the kids get together and play some competitive video games with each other. They fit it around all the other clubs and activities they do, and I think it gives them a little bit of fun and relaxation, a break in the day.
Awesome. Thank you, Justin.
Sorry about that.
No worries. I'm going to have the students introduce themselves next. First up is Zoe.
Hi, my name is Zoe. I am a senior at Chapel Hill-Chauncy Hall. I've been here since my freshman year, so 2017. I was at the Waldorf School of Lexington before coming to CH-CH. I was there from 3rd grade to 8th grade. And I've been in a number of activities over my 4 years, most notably varsity volleyball, the musical in the winter, rock climbing. I was on the Student Leadership Council last year for student government, which is similar to the position of student body president, but divided between 3 people. I'm in the National Honor Society, and this year I'm the president of the National Honor Society. I'm also in SOCA, an organization for students of color and allies, and I'm in Showing Up for Racial Justice, our chapter, which is for white people combating racial injustice.
Great. Thank you, Zoe. Up next is Jacob.
Okay, hi, my name is Jacob. I am a senior just like Zoe. I came to the school just like Zoe in 2017 as a freshman, so I've been here all 4 years. Before Chapel Hill, I was at the Acera School in Winchester. And activities I'm in, when we still had sports, I was in Ultimate Frisbee B team. I've done a development intern with some of the staff. And I'm also, right now, I'm a participant in one of the clubs that actually works, which is National Honor Society. And so I still take part in that, even though it's a little bit more difficult to do other extracurriculars. Usually I would do theater or theater tech. So that's been kind of my mainstays throughout the 4 years, but maybe not as much this year. So yeah.
Hi. I went to the Atrium School from 3rd grade to 8th grade, and I'm a sophomore this year, so my 2nd year at CH-CH. I'm the co-president of the GSA, the Gay Straight Alliance, and I also last year did theater tech and wrestling, and I'm continuing theater tech this year as one of the student leaders of that club. Activity.
Thank you, Axel. All right, well, thank you to our panelists for being available tonight to answer all of our audience's questions. Again, feel free to start asking questions at any point in the chat box. All right, I'm going to turn things over to Kelly to do her presentation, and then we'll open it up to you all after that. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen here. Just give me a moment. So I know you're all in middle school and thinking about middle school right now, but I'm going to start with the end in mind. The 7 categories you see on the screen in front of you make up our portrait of a graduate. And we address these in a number of different ways, starting in 9th grade and going all the way through 12th grade. And they are discussed both in the classroom, in advisory, but also out on the playing fields, or perhaps when you're biking or playing video games with your friends. And while the students may not always be aware of these categories, if you will, the teachers are, and it is something that guides all of us as we plan our work with students. We have a tremendous program, and I think it has been great to see how our program has continued to be strong, even when presented with remote learning, with distance learning, with hybrid models, with social distancing in the classroom. We haven't lost sight of the hallmarks of our program. We are, particularly in 9th grade, a program that focuses on skill building, and that might look different for different students. Some come to us with a very clear sense of time management, but may not know how to advocate for themselves and ask a teacher for help or to ask another friend for help. Others may be lost when it comes to time management because their middle school told them where to go every minute of every day, and we help them with that. At the same time, we know that many of our students come to us with tremendous strengths and interests, and we don't want to deny them that opportunity to really dive into something and to learn more. And so our teachers are very skilled at differentiating their lessons and also providing student choice, even in the classroom. Just today, my 10 9th graders who are in World Civ 1 had a class vote to cut back on our time spent exploring ancient Egypt in favor of more time exploring the Indus Valley civilization, because we're looking at city planning and we're creating our own cities. And they really got into it, and they said, you know, we've done Egypt, so can we just, can we have a little more time with Indus Valley? And that's the sort of thing that happens regularly, particularly in our 9th grade classes. Outside of the classroom, there's also tremendous student voice and choice. You've heard a number of co-curriculars and clubs mentioned by all of our panelists. And we're also always looking for interdisciplinary connections. And where can we really encourage students to grow and to explore and not be stuck with just trying to check the box and get their homework done, but really value what they're learning. Some of the specifics, some of the nitty-gritty, if you will, of how our days and weeks work. All students are enrolled in 6 year-long courses, and those courses are taught 3 times a week for 75-minute blocks. If you're coming from a program that has 40-minute classes, that may seem daunting, but I believe the students will join me in saying that it's not a problem at all. My previous experience was teaching 40-minute classes, and I never got through anything, and it always felt rushed. And 75 minutes is great. You can catch your breath. You can have those in-depth discussions. You can try lots of different things over the course of 75 minutes. And then if you haven't had a chance to cover everything in 75 minutes, we have an office hours program built into our schedule. 4 days a week for about 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes, depending on travel time. Our teachers and students are essentially free to meet with each other. We do structure this for 9th and 10th graders at the beginning of the year to help them understand how to use the time. But you can check in with a teacher, maybe get some extra help, maybe do some challenge problems or stretch yourself, or just catch up because you didn't have the chance in class, because we all value our relationships with one another. We run an advisory program by grade levels, and that's another place where students have the chance to check in with an adult, let them know how things are going. We really believe in these relationships that students build with the adults here on campus, but we don't assume that the advisor is always the perfect match. I started this year by saying to my advisees, I don't need to be your go-to person. You may not decide that I'm the one you want to confide in, but I at least need, as your advisor, I at least need to know who you're going to. And it's okay if you tell me that, Janet in the school store is the person you're going to talk to when you've got a problem, and I'll know to check in with Janet. For students who come to us needing any degree, any sort of little boost, or just aren't sure how high school is going to go and want to make sure that they are on the path to success, we have a terrific skills and academic support program that can be taken as one of your 6 year-long courses, so you don't miss out on anything else. And you can stay in that program all the way through 12th grade, or you might decide that after 9th grade, you've figured it out, you know how to use office hours effectively, you know how to use your advisor for help, and you decide to add another elective to your repertoire. By the time you get to 11th grade, there's tremendous flexibility and choice in our program. We have honors level classes, AP classes, and also independent studies. I will admit, since I've been spending a lot of time with 9th and 10th grade, I'm not even sure of the wide range of independent studies being taken this year, but I know there are quite a few, and perhaps our seniors can speak to that. And I'll turn it over to them after this. And within that, it really allows students the opportunity to explore a particular passion or something that we may not offer, and they just want to know more before they head off to college. Just a quick overview of what we're doing this year and how we've pivoted and made some changes. You may have heard Christy mention that her son is working, taking classes from home. And so he is logging into Zoom with his teachers, following the same schedule as our on-campus learners. We are including everyone in community time. And community time, even on campus this year, looks very different. We can't have our senior presentations with the entire community in the assembly hall, but we're spread around campus and we're gathering in classrooms where we have the space and we're watching senior presentations on Zoom. It was fun to have our senior presentation in our 9th grade building the other day. We're all scattered in our classrooms and 6 different Zooms running, and then it finished and there was a big round of applause from the whole building. And so you still felt like we were all together in it, even though we were watching on Zoom. Our teachers have been wonderfully flexible and adaptive in working with Zoom. We're using swivel robots in some classrooms, some Bluetooth speakers to enhance the learning experience for students who are at home. And then teachers are also getting creative because we can't have the same small group interactions or even the teacher hovering over a student to help them work through something. And so we are taking advantage of all of the tools available to us without overwhelming students with too many new apps or too many new tools. I think we found a nice balance. And of course, we are also taking advantage of our tremendous space on campus. We have about a half dozen established outside classrooms right now. They each look a little different. And then in our classrooms, we have the desks and spaces appropriately distanced. The picture on the bottom here is a 9th grade science class. The teacher here is connecting with his distance learners who are on Zoom, and the other students are working away. I will say, my colleagues and I are not used to teaching to students who sit in their chairs in rows and look at us at the front of the room. So we have had to adapt to that, but that's where the outside space has been really wonderful. And we're all taking advantage of that while we can, and we're gonna keep doing it even as it gets colder. So that's an overview of our program. And since I saw our student panelists perk up during the independent study mention, I think, why don't we turn it over to Zoe to talk a little bit about independent study. I'm gonna stop sharing here. And we will start to get questions, but before that, Zoe, why don't you talk about independent study?
So I've had 2 independent studies. It's more typical for juniors and seniors than for freshmen and sophomores. My first independent study was in graphic design. Although I don't intend on pursuing that in college anymore, that was initially my plan. So I really wanted to pursue that. So what I did was I took a couple courses on Skillshare, which is sort of a crowdsourced learning platform. And then I had, my advisor was Ms. Keating, and she helped me through my projects. I did a couple reworkings of popular products to try to redesign them to be more aesthetically pleasing and to communicate a different message. And then this year I'm doing an independent study in advanced French because in my schedule it doesn't really allow a lot of space for many classes. So I'm doing sorry, I'm blanking for a second. I am doing my French as an independent study, and what I'm doing primarily this year is creating materials for the other classes to use, because I do have a bit of a more advanced French knowledge than many of the other students. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Zoe. So good. Did it? Has anyone else done an independent study? Jacob, have you done one?
No, I was planning on taking one, but then I was convinced to join the publications class who do the yearbooks. So that's gonna be fun.
Okay.
I'd actually, if I could speak to Elizabeth's question. I know I already responded over texting, and I'm kind of sorry if this is
Okay.
reiterating that.
Do you mind if I read the question that way?
Oh yeah, sure.
People didn't see that. So yeah, but thank you for doing that. So this on Jacob. My son is an 8th grader at Acera. It sounds like there are a number of similarities between Acera and CH-CH. What were the biggest differences you found as a freshman?
Yeah, so I'd say obviously the biggest differences are, I can't really say one. I know that's always the best, but I'd say there's social and there's educational. For me, in my experience, socially, obviously it's a larger school, so there's more people to interact with, a lot more different clubs. I mean, I'd say maybe the biggest difference in that regard is the class size. At Acera, it's about, and in my day, it was 15 kids in all of the middle school, and then that's one class maybe. Obviously, the class sizes are very small. They can get up down to, I think one class I had with 3 people, but definitely a little different in that regard. And then socially, having different groups to be able to join and clubs. Educationally or academically, I'd say obviously that larger size, relatively larger size, obviously a very small high school, but relatively larger size meant a wider variety of classes to take and a different level of instruction, obviously, because it's a high school. And then, yeah, just the way that classes are taught are a little bit different. It's a little more structured, obviously, because you're kind of getting ready for college. But I didn't really think that was a negative thing. At least for me, I was used to doing more projects, and that's obviously still part of the curriculum. But there's also a lot of like guided writing, and I found that really helpful. And I think I really could improve my writing skills. And I think that's a pretty big difference because Sarah's a lot more project-based, in here there's more of a mix. So yeah.
Great. Thank you, Jacob. Christy, do you want to comment on that just from the parents' perspective of coming from?
Yeah, sure.
CH-CH?
Yeah, so I'd say that I'd say Acera was a fabulous place for Nicholas. So we were struggling to figure out what would be a good match for him coming out of Acera. And I'd say that we feel like we really made the right choice with CH-CH because there's so much flexibility involved in the way that CH-CH is set up and a huge amount of support. And both of those things were really vital for Nicholas. He's a kid who has like he's very passionate about very specific things. And so for us, one of the real appeals of CH-CH was that he was able to jump ahead in the subjects that he really loved. And so he didn't have to he'd done geometry at Acera. He didn't have to take geometry again. If he'd gone to Belmont High School, that would not have been an option. He's a junior now, he's in a senior elective. Last year he took advanced chemistry as a sophomore, which is a junior class. All of those things were phenomenal, just fabulous for us and for him.
Great, thank you. Oh, sorry, Jacob, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add, this is maybe not a difference, but in my case, I was able to also take geometry my first year, and I was able to take last year, my junior year, an 8-2 senior level classes, and that's just because of that, some of that built-in flexibility, and also personally, I was ahead, and then I was able to get in those higher level science and math classes, even though I was maybe in a more traditional setting that wouldn't have been possible.
Great, thank you. And then there's another question. A parent would love to hear more details about the STEM clubs and course. She has a child very interested in computer science, coding, and curious about options for engaging in this. Kelly, do you want to begin with that?
Yeah, let me just start because I know we mentioned Makerspace, but I think it's also important for everyone to realize some of the limitations we're experiencing right now. So last year in February, we had the wonderful, great fortune to open our brand new barn, our Visual and Performing Arts Center, and our Makerspace and Woodshop are part of that and are part of what we had great hopes for it, and it's a beautiful space and so much possibility with a wonderful, enormous art studio up on the 3rd floor. And unfortunately, we have not really been able to take advantage of that. So the Makerspace and the Woodshop were sort of last on the punch list to get finished. So there are some technical hurdles that we have to get through before we can use them. And in terms of social distancing, the rooms are not great. That's not to say that we're not doing STEM projects and such, and I'm sure the students and parents can speak to that. But I did just want you to make you aware that if you come to campus or you're speaking with newer students, they may not have much to share with you, and that's unfortunately a COVID issue.
Thank you, Kelly. Do any of the parents or students want to speak to kind of your involvement? Yep, Justin.
Yeah, I can add a bit. My son Kian was pretty actively involved in the Makerspace last year. And so, what I'm saying is, colored by what Kelly just said, right? He's not doing it right now because that space is closed at the moment. But he was there through moving it from its old location into the barn. And the new Makerspace is pretty fantastic. So once it's reopened, I'm pretty excited for all the students, Kian and otherwise, that get to use it. He was most focused on doing, interesting things with the 3D printing capabilities they have in there. So he spent a lot of time, you know, learning how to use the various 3D design programs and the processes for building. But in doing so, you know, got to interact with a lot of students that had other physical creatives. So this isn't quite about computer science and coding, which I know the question started as, but I do think there's a lot of overlap in the kinds of thinking people apply there. And so there's a lot of construction and capability in, and some of that was via computing and some of it is via people, you know, using their hands and tools. And it's a pretty amazing space. So I'm pretty excited for it to open back up against the kids.
Good, thank you, Justin. All right, there was another question in the chat. For the students, for someone interested in Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering, will they find peers interested in these things? Yeah, Zoe?
Yeah, so I'm not interested in those things specifically, but I do know that coming from smaller middle schools, it can feel like there's very few people to interact with, and you don't necessarily find people who share your interests. You can still find people that you're really compatible with, but maybe you don't really connect in every level. And while CH-CH is a very small school, it's big enough that you will find people with every kind of interest and every kind of passion. I know that there are some things that I was interested in that I had friends who weren't super interested in initially, but then, for example, like I'm really passionate about social justice, and now I found people who are also really passionate about social justice. So there's a lot of different ways for people because it is a bigger school than many of the middle schools people are coming from.
Yes, Axel?
Also, I think there's a few freshmen that are trying to set up a Dungeons and Dragons club, and there was a Dungeons and Dragons club last year with the kid Ronnie. And just like generally, I know that there are people that go to CH-CH that are into Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering. If that's a thing you're looking for, we definitely have it here.
Great, thank you, Axel. This could either be for parents and the students. What made you pick CH-CH over other options, either public or private? Christy, and then Jonathan.
So we looked at a bunch of different places. We considered Belmont High School and going to public school. We looked at the BUA, Boston University Academy, and a couple of other places. And I would say, as we were talking about before, that with CH-CH, we really felt like there was the flexibility and the personal connection. Susie was a big part of that for us. And we met with her multiple times, and she just really made Nicholas feel like he would be welcome, and that that CH-CH was excited to have him be there. And I just say that made a huge difference to us.
Great.
So thanks, Susie.
Yeah, I have such a great team to work with. I'm very lucky. Jonathan?
You know, we were living in Jamaica Plain, and the thought of commuting to Waltham was pretty daunting, even though Lewis, our son, had gone to school for 8 years in Cambridge. I thought, boy, another 35-minute commute. And really, once we got to the school and got to meet everybody, I think we saw a lot of schools that we thought were pretty good on teaching children how to love to learn. But I think for me, what really separated CH-CH from the other school was that it really was clear that it was a place where students also learn to love. And what I mean by that is I think that the community is just phenomenal, and nothing really is a better example than how the entire administration and teachers have been under COVID. I have said over and over to all of my friends with kids, I completely trust Lance and the administrators at this school to do the right thing, whatever the right thing is, because I know they very much want to get back into class, but aren't going to do that. And I think that that's been sort of the the real empowerment within the community. My son was adopted. He was born in Ecuador. He's got 2 gay parents. He's got, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on there. And to come to a school where not another person from his 8th grade class came to CH-CH, you know, would be hard for any 8th grader. I think it took him probably 15 minutes to feel really at home. And so I think that's been very important. And to really fast forward from freshman year to senior year, one absolutely phenomenal part of this school, especially for all, you know, for Zoe and Jacob and anybody and any parent who's got a senior child, is Brooke, who runs the sort of college prep program. I never had anything in high school. Nobody helped me do anything, look at schools, how to prep for interviews. And this has been a phenomenal aspect of the school for us, that even under COVID, Brooke continues to communicate with my son. I know she's doing it with all the other seniors. They're looking at schools, they're writing their essays together, they're talking about how do you get teacher recommendations. So I think, you know, it's hard as thinking about freshman year all the way to senior year, but I have to say, even under this dire and difficult circumstance, we're getting ready for college, and my son really has extraordinary help and support.
Jonathan, while you're speaking, another question, and Zoe, I'll get to you right after this, but the parent wanted to know, how was the transition from Cambridge Friends School to CH-CH?
You know, we were part of a really wonderful carpool, and Jacob was part of that. And we had 4 other kids in the freshman class. The school works really hard on making the transitions really smooth and really wonderful. And I have to say, you know, the school is both teaching my son as a place, you know, to love to learn, but also really learning to love and be a part of a community. And again, you know, we don't have Harrington Hall now, which was sort of the community meeting space, and everyone would go there for lunch. My son ate dinner there almost every single night starting from freshman year on, and wouldn't come home until 7:30 at night. And you know, you don't find that, I think, in a lot of high schools, where kids just sometimes don't want to leave their school or leave their friends. And I think that is a big part of high school and growing up. And I think the school has been just phenomenal, that every kid counts, and whatever their interests, the school and the administrators will make them shine and will give them every opportunity, whether it's theater or sports or academics or a combination of all of them.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say the biggest adjustment was, if any?
You know, I mean, the most important adjustment is my kid never felt that he was alone. He, you know, he is very, very clear. He's got brown skin, and he just really felt embraced by the whole community. And even the students that are on the call now are part of clubs and part of activities that really reach out to the whole student body. I mean, I think my son has maybe a more difficult time with some of the academics. And I think being a part of the program, I can't remember the name offhand, when you have a student advisor, most of the freshmen are in it. What's it called when you meet with somebody once a week? It's a very important part of your school.
SAS. Is it SAS, Jonathan?
Yeah, SAS. I'm so sorry. SAS, and he had an academic and sort of social supervisor to really help him, somebody he would meet with and somebody he would get to know. And he has chosen to continue SAS all 4 years. So I think things that could have been problems in many other schools, we really relied on the extra support that SAS offers. And it's also a phenomenal perk to this particular school that we didn't see elsewhere, that I think many of the students thrive under.
Thank you, Jonathan. Zoe, I know you had something to add, and then there's a question for Axel next.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about why I chose CH-CH. I know that this is something that's a common thread for people coming from these middle schools. I am a person with learning disabilities, and it was really important for me to find a place where I wouldn't get lost. And you can get that at many small schools, but at CH-CH specifically, I knew that teachers would look out for me and would notice when things weren't going great and would come to me with support. And I really felt that. I remember there was a period of time where I wasn't really getting my work done in a couple classes, and my history teacher, Mr. McFeely, came up to me and was like, Zoe, are you okay? Like, what's going on? Because he knew that it wasn't typical for me to be behind on my work, and he knew that there was something going on because he paid attention to that. So CH-CH has really been a place where I've found my community. I found support, not just within other students, but within the teachers.
Thank you, Zoe. Justin, did you have one comment before?
I can wait. I can wait until after Axel. I was just queuing myself up.
Gotcha. Okay, and then so Axel, your question was how? Sorry, I'm just trying to see. Did you? 1 second. I'm sorry. There's been a bunch of. Okay. Hi, Axel. I am an Atrium student. Can you talk about your transition to CH-CH?
Yeah, definitely. The transition from Atrium to CH-CH, it was very smooth, honestly. Atrium prepares, I don't know how many people watching this are from Atrium, but Atrium prepares you very well for CH-CH. Freshman year, academically, there's parts of it that are recap because of that's something Atrium purposely did to prepare you by teaching you aspects of what you'd learn later on. But it really picks up sophomore year from what I've noticed so far academically from Atrium, what they taught you before, and it's a very smooth transition. Atrium's obviously a very small school. It's a very small school, and I wouldn't know any different. This feels like a very big school to me, even though I'm aware that technically it's very small. Atrium kind of makes it so you get used to it, and then this is a good transition. There's a lot of things that Atrium had, just not officially, like the services SAS provides. At Atrium, you might find somebody, like just a teacher. It's a very small space, so you just get to know everyone really well. So that role would kind of be filled by any number of teachers. At CH-CH, it's the same with SAS. For freshman year, SAS was so important. Getting to know people socially. I didn't have anybody from my Atrium class come with me to CH-CH, but I did know Kian and I knew Ario. And this year, there's two friends from Anna and Joe, who are new freshmen, who I knew from Atrium. And yeah, it's a very good transition, honestly. And there's the transition's not rough at all. Atrium prepares you well, and I see this as a very good next step from a school like Atrium.
Thank you, Axel. And I'm going to have Justin speak, and then I'll get to the question that was in the Q&A about homework. All right, Justin?
Sure. Actually, what I have to say, in parts, was covered differently by both Axel and Jonathan. Because Kian, who Axel just mentioned, my son, went to Atrium. And I also he has a younger sister who's currently a 6th grader at Atrium. And so, Axel said, I think, enough about the transition, but I was actually raising my hand about the earlier question about why we chose CH-CH. And for us, it actually was because of a couple of core, really value aspects that we felt like we saw at CH-CH that mirrored Atrium that we cared about. And I think the biggest one of those is what I think, Jonathan was getting at, is this, being willing to wear love outwardly, and not, at the expense of excellence, but as part of it. but I saw that and loved that about Atrium. And to me, that was one of the most wonderful things about that. And of all the places we looked at for other high schools that Kian might have gone to, it was that aspect that made him feel so immediately like this was the right kind of place to be, that mirrored that, you know, that heart from that is different from, but really has a lot in common with Atrium. And so even for those of you that aren't at Atrium now, you know, we really value that there's this, you know, notions of love and positive justice are just part of being there. And, you know, I could talk about all the other things, the academics, the SAS and all that, but that was what got us here. And it's been what we thought it would be, and it's been wonderful.
Thank you, Justin. Axel?
That just reminded me of I had a thought about why I chose CH-CH as well from Atrium. A lot of people from Atrium, they overlook CH-CH when they're looking at high schools, and that's for many different reasons. We have a lot of ties with Cambridge School of Weston, and so a lot of people are pushed there from the teachers and so on and so forth, and other alumni. But yeah, I chose CH-CH from Atrium really because the facilities it offered and the environment that it fostered. It is a very, like Justin said, it's a very, very, very just, I'm trying to think of a good way of putting it, a very warm environment that is very welcoming. And that felt, I mean, when you're a freshman, leaving a very small middle school, going to what feels like a big high school, you need that kind of energy, and it really did well to help make the transition comfortable.
Thank you, Axel. And Christy?
Just adding on to that, I think that one of the reasons that we chose CH-CH was also because we knew that Nicholas needed to go to a private school, but there isn't that sort of snobbery at CH-CH that you can feel at other places. And that was a surprise to us, really. We also looked at Cambridge School of Weston, and like there were wonderful things about all different private schools out there, but I would say CH-CH was the only one that really felt like what mattered the most was the kids and the community. And for us, that was very significant.
Thank you. Jonathan? Oh, you have to unmute.
Yeah. You know, just really quickly, the only other thing I want to add is the diversity at the school. This school is the real deal. There is no question about it. A lot of schools feel a little like you're on Noah's Ark, where you get two of everybody, you know, and they're sort of like, oh, the school's done its diversity or it's met its quota. This is one of the most diverse independent schools, and it is really a reflection of, I think, how I want my child to live in society and in community, and where every voice counts and everybody is heard, and nobody feels like they're the only one, whatever it is, whether you're African American or whether you know, maybe questioning your identity, you know, whatever it is. And I think I promise you, this school is the real deal in that area.
Thank you, Jonathan. All right, I'm going to get to the question. How would you characterize the volume of homework? And I thought, Kelly, it might be helpful for you to maybe do a share screenshot.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so let me quickly, I know the students will have, I'll let them have an opportunity to weigh in. They can speak most directly to this, but I wanted to show quickly a 5-day schedule here. This is our typical week. And you'll notice that there are 6 blocks, A, B, C, D, E, F, and they are scattered over the course of the week. So a student would never have 6 classes worth of homework on any one particular night. And we are very deliberate about that, particularly in 9th grade, in thinking about what we're assigning. So I teach a B block class, and I don't, therefore, when I have class on Thursday and say, oh, I don't see them again until Monday, I don't load on 3 nights of homework, or similarly between Tuesday and Thursday. It's simply that we meet 3 times a week, and there are usually 3 homework assignments connected to those classes. And you'll also see the office hours and breaks, advisory clubs. It's a great schedule. There's time in the day to catch your breath and to also get started on your homework, or to check in with the teacher to make sure you know what you need to do when you get home and you're on your own. So I will leave that up for just a moment so everyone can see it. And I think Zoe had her hand up to speak to homework.
Yep. Zoe and then Jacob.
Yeah, so I'm a person with anxiety. So my freshman year, when I didn't have a huge workload, I still spent a good amount of time doing homework because I was such a perfectionist. And through my experience at CH-CH, I've learned how to better manage my work and not be so focused on getting an A+ in every assignment and more focusing on learning the content itself. This year I am in 3 APs, which is the maximum you're allowed to take. So I do have a substantial amount of work, but I do believe that it's challenging me to be prepared for college setting. And it's also not like an insane amount of work. Like for my AP Lit class, we basically just read for homework. So it's not crazy, and it feels very manageable most days.
Thank you, Zoe. Jacob?
Yeah, so that was actually kind of to tie it back to the why CH-CH is I heard from other schools that it was like 2.5 hours, 2-3 hours of work a night, and I wasn't really willing to do that, and I wasn't really to go to a school that did that kind of work because I wanted to. I'm a big reader. I like reading, and I wanted to do that outside of school, do other things I liked outside of school. And a lot of Chapel Hill, like a lot of private schools have, or used to before COVID, have mandatory after-school activities. And I think that's great for a number of reasons, and a lot of other private schools have that. And I'm not really going to go too deeply into that, but that would mean I also live very far away. So that would mean I would get home at 6 on most days, and I ended up getting home at 6. And then if I thought about it, and I said, if I have 2 to 3 hours of homework, like, you know, I need more sleep than an average person, and I knew that about myself. So I was like, this isn't going to be manageable. And so I think Chapel Hill, that's one of the reasons I chose it, because I knew that I could get, and it's true, I could get some homework done in the office hours. But also in my first year, I took SAS, so I got a lot of homework done there. And I, obviously freshman year, didn't have the amount of homework that I have now. So it really wasn't more than half an hour a night for all of freshman year, and even most of sophomore year. My junior year, I didn't take SAS. I took a college level class, and it was more homework, but again, it was very manageable. And this year, like Zoe, I'm taking 3 APs, but because I do homework in office hours, and I talk to my teachers when it's too much from other classes, and the teachers really don't give too much homework, it's really very manageable. And, you know, I talk to the people at Chapel Hill, and they're like, oh, it's like 45 minutes a night. And, you know, that's for a senior, and that's really held true in my experience. So it might sound daunting coming from middle school where I did like 10 minutes of homework maximum, but it's definitely, I definitely feel like the homework is there for a useful purpose, which is preparing for the next class. And it really isn't as much as other schools, and even as much as I'd feared. So definitely, man.
Look at you all organized and, you know, figuring it out for college. It's great. Good job. Axel?
My experience with the homework load from freshman year, it was not that much at all. It was very manageable, and at the same time, while there was not a lot of homework, it was very clear that the homework we were like being given, there was a reason why we had to do it, and it wasn't just for the sake of having us do work outside of school. And like Jacob said, it's I live pretty far away, and I also last year, last year during afternoon activities, I would get out very, very late, and I'd get home very late. And then at that point, I barely have time to eat dinner and go to sleep at a reasonable time, let alone do what the amount of homework my friends at other schools had. And so it really, it's a very good, amount of homework for freshman year, and so far the same situation for sophomore year.
Thank you, excellent. There's a question. How would you characterize the volume? Is there a specific number of hours, Kelly, that they're assigned homework?
No, the teachers have tremendous flexibility, and I think Axel and Jacob both spoke to the point that we do talk as a faculty about the value of the work we are assigning and whether or not you need it. And sometimes, you know, it might just be reading or it might be reflecting on something, but I have never come across much of the busy work that sometimes you see, or a teacher finding that they have to cram in a certain amount of content, and therefore the only way to do that is to load the homework on and expect the students to manage it themselves.
Great, thank you. Christy, you had your hand up, and then Jonathan?
Yeah, I wanted to speak to the homework question. So Nicholas has very significant ADHD and executive functioning issues, which was one of the reasons that we chose CH-CH. First of all, because of SAS, which is extremely helpful, was extremely helpful for him as a freshman, particularly in terms of his executive functioning issues, and just really helping him parse through how to get his homework done, and how to manage it and how to keep track of it. So that was extremely helpful. And also that the office hours, I think, are really important to point out, because it is, at least in my experience, having older children at other schools, it's such a rarity that teachers are that accessible and that they are there for the kids. Their office hours are there so that if you have a question or you can't get your homework done, you can go to your teacher and just be completely honest, and the teachers will be really supportive. And so for a kid like Nicholas, you know, who has this disability, he has found that he doesn't have to try to make up excuses, you know, skirt the issue, all that kind of stuff. He can go be completely honest with his teachers, and they'll be like, okay, let's figure this out. And I think that's huge.
Thank you. Jonathan?
And, you know, we actually had our son tested because he was, you know, he could put a Rubik's Cube together and learn the algorithm to a Rubik's Cube in, you know, 2 minutes flat. And yet he really struggled to read a book. And he was tested and really came out as a very strong visual learner. I've found that a lot of the homework assignments really allow that kind of flexibility, that visual learners can do their homework assignments in a way that will be meaningful for them. And for any parents on the phone, the school is extraordinary in, I think, letting parents know gently, and it's not like Big Brother is watching you, but we really get almost daily updates. And so I think if there is a struggle with a certain class or a certain assignment, you know, I think the teachers are really right on it and work with the kids. I mean, and for parents, you know, we know as well, though, I think as they enter high school, we've taken less of a role in sort of intervening, but we definitely know what's going on with homework assignments as well. So that's all.
Thank you. Kelly, do you want to talk about the MyCH and how we get the weekly progress reports and homework assignments are all there?
Sure. So we use a learning management software that we call MyCH-CH, and there's a teacher platform, a student platform, and a parent platform. And students access MyCH many times throughout the day, as do the teachers. It gives us our schedules, it gives us our assignments, resource banks for information for individual classes or for clubs. And then the parents have their own portal and can view their students' schedule, can view their students' assignments should they choose to. We do make a conscious decision to keep closed grade books. We are, I think Zoe mentioned, not always striving for that A+ and everything. We try to keep the numbers, turn them into conversations between students and teachers. But our teachers write weekly progress notes, and those are published on Tuesday morning for students. And over the course of the day on Tuesday, students will review those either with an SAS teacher, with their advisor, perhaps just on their own. And these progress notes are not made available to parents until Wednesday morning. And that is also a conscious decision on our part to give the students some ownership of their learning and to encourage them to make a plan. Should they see a progress note with a recommendation for a meeting during office hours, or perhaps there's a missing assignment, then the student can work with their advisor and teachers to make the plan. And already we see that happening in 9th grade. One of my advisees' parents wrote back and said, "Can you confirm that, you know, those 2 missing assignments are in fact taken care of?" And I said, "I can confirm that." And so the student was able to take care of that in the 24-hour window. And then we also have mid-trimester reports and end-of-trimester report cards. And at both of those reporting periods, students do see grades, a letter grade associated for each class.
Thank you. I did want to mention, I know we're coming upon 8 o'clock, that we did record this and we'll be emailing it out to all of our audience members tonight. And if you'd like to share it out to anyone at your current schools that weren't able to join that you might think might benefit from this, please feel free to email that to them. My colleague Matt, our Director of Communications, put in the chat a link to a lot of great events coming up. I know we're doing a lot of Zoom events and we're getting zoomed out. So typically we have 2 fall open houses, and due to the COVID restrictions, we're not able to host large gatherings on campus that we typically have. And so we try to think outside the box and reimagine one of our open houses to be a drive-through. And so on Sunday, October 18th, anytime between 1 and 3, anyone can come to campus. We'll welcome you with kind of a one-pager with a tour route and specific stops with QR codes, and there'll be some teachers and students and my team there to kind of direct you along. But you can scan the QR code at that stop, and then you'll see a pre-recorded video from either a teacher or a student speaking about that space and the programs. So it's just a fun, interactive way to see the campus in a different way. And then following that, on November 1st, we'll have our formal virtual open house with many more presentations and Q&A opportunities as well. So be sure to check out our website, chch.org. And then if you go to admissions, there's a link to admissions events. If there are any questions that we weren't able to get to this evening, or you think of after the fact, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to put you in touch with any of these panelists or other folks. I think it's a great opportunity to network with former people from your current schools, just to really speak about their experience. They were all in your shoes at one point. And I just want to give a round of applause to our amazing panelists. It just really makes me, think about what a special place this is and how long I've been here and how awesome and amazing it is. Just hearing everyone's stories, it's just really, just authentic, and we don't prep anyone. And I just love hearing about these experiences. It's really an amazing and special place. So thank you everyone for participating, and I hope you all have a good night, and I hope to welcome you on campus. We're also doing, by the way, on campus tours and interviews while it's still safe to do so. So if you are interested in doing that, we book those during the academic day during the week, so that way you can see things in session. So definitely let us know if you want to schedule something like that. So thank you again, everyone. I appreciate you all attending, and have a great night and stay safe.